Hello, short people. We have a classic for Christmas week today. The Grinch That Stole Christmas. Now, some of the younger ones, you guys might think that he's scary, but he's just grouchy. Remember last week we had a story about the blue bear that was grouchy? He's grouchy too, but we'll see. They all change at the end, don't they? Glasses. And eyes watching, ears listening, voices quiet, body calm. Every Who down in Whoville loved Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, well, the Grinch, he did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was two sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. They're just hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers, nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew. All the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early, they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh the noise, noise. That's the one thing he hated, the noise. Honk, honk, whee! Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding, with rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch could not stand, not in the least. And then they'd do something that he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing, and they'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would be singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more that the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it. Now I must stop this Christmas from coming. He thought, but how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and he clucked. What a great Grinchy trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. That's what they call Santa Claus. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. But that didn't stop Grinch. Nah, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, then he took out some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags, some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. And then the Grinch said, get up, giddy up! And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed up on the roof. Empty bags held in his fist. He's going down that chimney, I know. Then he slid down the chimney. A rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He only got stuck once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned. Oh, these stockings are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present: pop guns, bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stuffed all the bags one by one and up the chimbley. Actually, a chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch, he even took their last can of Who hash. Oh. Now he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, said the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. You can't take a tree up a chimney. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was not more than 1 or 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cold cup of water, and she stared at the Grinch and said, Sandy Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But the old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he brought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light out on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there and I'll bring it back here. Well, his fib fooled that child. He patted her head, he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up by the chimney and stuffed the tree up. The last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for that mouse. Then he did the same thing at all the other Who houses, leaving crumbs much too small for other Who mouses. It was 1:15 dawn, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still a snooze when he packed up his bed, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. "3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh, pooh, said the Who, he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville, they will all cry, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. He pressed and he paused, put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started low and it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be, but it was very merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes and he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. It hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinchy feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could this be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzle was sore, and then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't thought before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so right, he whizzed through his load and the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast, and he himself, he carved the roast beef. The end. Well, that just goes to show you, I guess. People can start out feeling bad and grouchy, and then other people being happy makes them happy. You could do that too. I'll be back tomorrow with another Christmas book. Until then, be good to your folks and wash your hands. Bye-bye.